podcast, DFW's Cars here. I'm here with the Audi A3 and the Quattro today to go through a little bit more about this car and tell you if it's a real Audi, and I'll tell you more about what I mean by that. I'll also tell you if this is the closest to a go-kart that I've experienced in a sedan. Let's take a look around, take it for a drive. It is very much Audi-esque. On 2017, they changed the grille and lights up here to make it look even a little bit more premium. On the side of the car, in the back, I would say is the biggest way it differs from an A4. This looks kind of like a B7 A4, and good looking car. Has a long hood there. It's about this Quattro badge on there. That's actually a factory option. I kind of like and think is, cool, but, not everyone might agree. The back actually has the kind of 3D effect that Audi is now doing on it there, so that's nice. And then this one has the higher end engine and the Quattro system on it. So, and let's grab some exhaust. So in back here is going to be the big difference from the A4. Just under 6 feet here. I do have room, but it is a little bit tighter. It just feels small, but it's not unpleasant back here. They do have the roof come up a little bit, and what's kind of nice is, although it's not an official panoramic sunroof, it does come very far back on this car, which is nice because even the A4 doesn't have a pano sunroof on there. So that's kind of a nice feature on this car, just due mainly to its smaller size. But yeah, it's comfortable back here. Probably not something you'd want to do every day, but it's okay. So going through the competitors for this car is a little bit tricky because in the States, BMW doesn't have anything smaller than the 3 Series in a sedan. Mercedes does offer something called the CLA, which is based on the AB class, kind of. But having driven that car, actually looking at it when I was getting my C-Class, it doesn't quite feel like a full-size Mercedes. So the question is, whereas the BMW in the 2 Series does feel like a BMW, just smaller. So it'll be interesting to see where this car falls. Interior wise, compared to the A4, that's one of the 2 big areas. Obviously, other than size, interior quality, which I'll go through with you here. There are little bits of hard plastic, which again are very nice because this is a Volkswagen Audi product, but aren't necessarily up there with other Audis. But the switchgear does have chrome surrounds, which is a nice touch you might not find in this class. The steering wheel here, it does have also chrome surrounds. Has a nice look and feel to it. Still an old school key here, which I kind of like. It's not as convenient though. Gauges are literally off another Audi, and how I know that is this one doesn't have the auto stop start, but there is a ready, which would be for that feature. I like the vents. They probably look better in the video. The bits of plastic around here are not super high end for Audi, but they work well. This screen here still has a feature which is sadly going away, but it does have the feature that it'll recess and pop up. So as long as your car is in warranty or this motor is affordable enough to replace, that's not a bad thing. Again, plastic buttons here versus chrome on the A4. One thing I do want to point out and draw attention to is I love how this has that round feel. It almost feels like a manual, so when you're shifting over here, it has that manual feel to it, which is very nice. And then pretty standard Audi interface here, easy enough to use, and then electronic parking brake. You think with an e-brake you usually get a bigger console, but that is just not the case necessarily here because it's not very deep. These seats are comfortable and pretty good for a little bit of long-term driving I did in this car. The A4 is just a little bit quieter. The ride is hard to compare because the A4s I'm familiar with have both the sport package and like a larger wheel and tire package, neither of which this particular car has. So I'd say the A4 is probably a little bit smoother, nicer inside, and feels like a much higher end car, whereas this feels like a premium car but not super high end. And given the price, that kind of makes sense. Now, driving it, let me start with, I guess, the weakest point in driving it. The transmission can be a little bit lurchy. It is a dual clutch unit, which I am very appreciative of, but that double-edged sword to that is it's not necessarily the smoothest. It's a 6-speed dual clutch on this particular one versus a 7-speed in, say, the A4 and things like that. So there is a bit of a difference there. The 2.0T version is plenty powerful and never leaves you wanting more, especially coupled with this very quick transmission. So can't complain there. Now, when I talked about a go-kart earlier, the steering of this car, it's so crisp and sharp on the turn in here. It almost feels like it would oversteer, which isn't something Audis are really known for, but it just bites into those turns. So love the steering on this car. Absolutely, you know, one of the best systems out there. There's no adjustability on this model, at least, and frankly, it doesn't need it. Along with the suspension, which, you know, does grab, is definitely like a winning point of this car. Let's build some speed here. There is some initial give, but it's very predictable. So I wouldn't get like a sport package or even bigger tires and rims on this car. It's sporty enough as is, and it's already one of the sportiest sedans out there. It does, with the Quattro, it does feel like a go-kart, and it does feel like a real Audi. The only bit that's kind of off an Audi, because it just looks like a smaller Audi from the outside, you know, an A4 from a few generations ago. It's, you know, cute that it's not a high-end Audi, is the quality of the interior. Otherwise, though, you get a very premium car at a good price. So if you don't need the extra space of the A4, BMW's offerings here, well, at least in the States, there is no equivalent. And then Mercedes offering, it doesn't feel, you know, anything like the C-Class. So I would say over the CLA, I would sort of lean this direction a little bit more. This is closer to the A4 than the CLA is to the C-Class. So that's impressive, and Audi's done a good job there, not making you feel like, oh, you know, I'm missing something in this car. The screen, although it does go up and down in the base model, isn't very high resolution, so even the backup camera literally looks like you're playing Minecraft a little bit. You know, it does its job, but that would be hopefully one area. The second thing is the bass stereo on this car is very good. I've said with Audis, the bass stereos are so decent, unless you can get a Bang & Olufsen option, especially a Bang & Olufsen 3D, you might just want to stick with the bass over the Bose system, because you get a subwoofer, you get tweeters, you know, you get a lot of higher end features even on the bass system. So I don't usually talk about stereos, but Audi bass stereos are pretty good. So didn't want to touch on that. You get HD radio even. Now let's talk a little bit about price. This car is optioned out to $37 because it is the larger engine and it does have the Quattro. So base price of about $34 on this car. Not necessarily a great value, seeing as where the A4 starts, but to get an A4 with Quattro really would be a little bit more. You know, pearl white paint, which almost adds $600 on. You know, whether that's worth it for you is up to you. The iPod interface was $350 more. That was kind of a bummer. That's standard on a lot of cars now. It does have the garage door opener as a $300 option. Again, that's standard on the A4, so kind of bummed about that. And then, of course, that brilliant black Quattro decal for $85. Again, I think that's kind of cool because I loved how the original concept car of the Audi Quattro had Quattro written. So I thought that was cool when I saw this loaner car. I said, hey, can I have that one? That one looks cool. $2,000 in options there, nothing too crazy. An interesting fact about this car is it was built in Hungary, not in Germany. That was kind of surprising to me. The parts are German, but it was actually built in Hungary, which, you know, builds a lot of Audi engines. The build quality definitely seems up there. The doors have a nice thud to them. Everything works well. The moonroof is, you know, smooth and quick. Everything is up to Audi quality. So the final conclusion is this car is pretty incredible, and I would probably buy it with my own money. A used A4, especially of the, you know, B9 one, it's not going to be quite as sporty, but it's going to be similar price-wise to a new one of these. So you'd probably want to drive both. Again, they have their pros and cons. I like this size, and I like the extra nimbleness. Shorter wheelbase, Quattro, really sharp turning. It's a go-kart, but it has a really livable ride as well. Any questions you have, let me know in the comments. But this kind of completes my Audi lineup now for sedans and of the mainstream sedans, or at least the different platforms. So until next time, my speedy racers, drive on.